How we doing, everybody, and welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. Today on this Tuesday, we went through a lot yesterday. Got into a little bit of Packer talk from this last weekend. We're gonna get more into it today, talking about the off season here coming up for Green Bay. Also, looking ahead to the end of an off season for the Brewers. We're gonna talk about the Brewers a little bit today. They're in the news. I saw some rumblings going on about the Brew Crew, so we're gonna get into them. Also, looking at the Badgers in action tonight against the border rival Minnesota. Both teams actually in action. We got men's and women's in action against Minnesota. So we're going to talk about it both. I'm here with Austin and Rogan today. So Austin, how we doing on this Tuesday? Doing a little bit better than yesterday? Are we getting better?
Yeah, Trage, we're doing a little bit better. I'm still feeling a little bit down, but at this point I've realized, the Packers, they did good. They did good for what they were asked to do, and now we're able to set new expectations for this Packers team moving forward. I think we're back to our winning ways, not just a rebuild year. When everyone thought this was a rebuild year, but not anymore. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for the future, and it's a good day to have a good day. It's a good day.
Good day. It is a good day. I'm going to jump to Rogan. He was the guy who was hit the hardest by the Packers loss. It ruined his entire weekend. So, Rogan, are we getting there? Are we coping? Are we making it through?
Yeah, Trage, I'm doing a little bit better today. Like you said yesterday, long day of self-reflection there, just trying to figure out who I am as a person. And maybe football is not life, but then I have friends that like to send me TikToks of Carlson missing that field goal. So a little bit better, but I'm definitely not there yet.
We're getting there, though. We're getting there. It's a day-by-day process. It's like rehab. Wisconsin sports, you got to go through rehab at the end of the year. You get your hopes up. They get you to certain points, and then you're back in the house. Then you got to go to rehab for a little bit, wait for the next season to start. They get your hopes back up. It's a constant cycle, but it's a fun cycle. So today, like I said, we're going to get into the Brewers right away. And the Brewers are in the news a little bit. I saw some rumblings there. They are expected, and one of the front runners for Rhys Hoskins to sign for the Brewers. Now, not knowing who Rhys Hoskins is, if you don't, played for the Phillies there, first baseman, pretty good first baseman, was injured as of late, but coming back off injury, seems like a more affordable contract for the Brewers. He was making, at the time, a 1 year, $12 million contract with the Phillies. So you imagine in that ballpark once again. I think the Brewers, this would definitely be a solid move for the Brewers. Rhys, over his career, pretty good hitter, good power hitter. He's going to bring some experience there at that first base spot. So, I don't know, Rogan, looking at a guy like Rhys Hoskins, I mean, we've talked about guys like Garrett Cooper, and we've talked about Carlos Santana possibly coming back to the Brewers. Would you go outside of the box here and sign a guy like Rhys Hoskins to a contract if you are the Brewers?
Yeah, I think Rhys Hoskins is kind of like a perfect fit for the Brewers. He's like a career 250 hitter. So, I mean, not a fantastic hitter, but definitely a pretty solid hitter. And it looks like he's got some decent power numbers there, too. And obviously, with the Phillies and Harper kind of moving over that first base spot, probably not really a spot for him on the team anymore. And like you were saying, the most important part, I think this is a realistic guy for the Brewers contract-wise, because I think he's gonna demand a decent contract, but something that the Brewers are going to be able to afford. So that's the important part. And like we were talking last week, our first base output on offense has been the worst in the league the last couple of years here now. So that would be huge for the Brewers to shore up that position.
And if you're the Brewers, Corbin Burns, last year of his contract, Willie Adames, last year of his contract, this well-rounded team that's been around for, since 2018, basically, is now slowly disbanding on you. You're going to have left Christian Yelich. That's about the only guy you're going to have left off that roster. So it seems like this season is when you got to go for it. If you want to go for it, if you believe in this team right now, Rhys Hoskins is a great sign if you're the Brewers. Also a guy out there in free agency like Justin Turner. Justin Turner for the Red Sox last year, I believe he was like about a 280 hitter, just above a 280 hitter, not hitting for a lot of pop. He was a lot of DH last year, but he still has the ability to play third base for you. So the Brewers could double dip in free agency right now, get a guy like Rhys Hoskins, get a guy like Justin Turner. The last time we remember the Brewers making a splash like that, and this isn't a huge splash, but the last time, 2018, before the 2018 season, They went and got Christian Yelich and signed Lorenzo Cain. That was the last time the Brewers made that massive splash before a season started. This could be that splash that says, we're here to stay, because right now, you look at the NL Central, the Reds getting better, the Pirates always feisty. You imagine the Cardinals will be back, and the Cubbies. Look at what they took your manager. They took Craig Counsell. I mean, so all these teams in the NL Central right now are reloading. And I mean, Austin, looking at the NL Central right now, do you really believe at this moment that the Brewers are by far the front runners in there right now, with the rest of these teams reloading the way that they are? It makes me nervous, honestly, leading up into this next year, because the Brewers are kind of staying stagnant in the free agent pool right now, while other teams are going, hey, we're going to jump on this guy, we're going to jump on this guy. So how are you feeling right now about the Brewers' chances where they're at in the NL Central?
In the NL Central, yeah, I mean, the NL Central is always really good. And obviously there was a down year for the Cardinals, and you could say a down year for the Cubs too, but they started to pick up a little bit there towards the end. Pirates had a great year, I'd say, and Cincinnati was doing pretty well too. I think the Brewers did just enough to get by and win the division though. And I thought towards the end there, they were starting to slip off. And I think, and we saw that when they played the Diamondbacks. When you look at the whole NL, when you look at the whole National League, I think there's definitely a little bit of a separation there. When you look at, I saw that when we played the Diamondbacks. Diamondbacks, they're a really young team also. And they came into Milwaukee and they kind of just took control of that whole situation there. So when you want to look at it that way, I mean, you can't even compare the Brewers to the Dodgers. I don't think you compare any team to the Dodgers right now either. It's going to be hard to compare them to the Arizona Diamondbacks on how they're looking, just because they just made it to the World Series. They got a lot of highs right now, a young team, and just a lot of other teams. I mean, the Phillies, they've always been good. And we talk about Rhys Hoskins. It looks like he didn't even play last year at all. So are you playing 2022, not in 2023? There's no stats for him in 2023. So right now he's currently on a 60-day IL. So that could be another reason why he's maybe a little bit cheaper for us to get him. So the Phillies were also really good too. There's a lot of competition in NL, so it'll definitely be interesting. But when you look at the NL Central, I don't know. The Cubs, I feel like Cubs are going to be always there. Now they got Craig Counsell. We know how good of a manager he is. The Cardinals, they'll be back. I guarantee you that. I don't know what happened to them last year, but they're definitely going to be back this year. Pirates were solid, and I don't see them going by anyway soon. And I think Cincinnati's just always that team that kind of hangs around there. They're just either really good, they're either like somewhat pretty good, or they're just like bottom of the barrel really bad. So I don't know what kind of Cincinnati team we're going to get this year. But when you look at the Milwaukee Brewers, I don't really know if you say we lost a lot of people, but our guys on our team are just getting older besides our outfield. And that's about all we got kind of to sustain us right now. And if you want to look down the road in a couple of years, we're going to be losing a couple of pitchers here probably too. So who knows about that? So it'll definitely be interesting. But hopefully if we get Rhys Hoskins and Justin Turner, if we double dip like we did back in 2018, I think that would be huge. Even though Justin Turner is getting a little bit older, he's a little bit more of a vet. He knows what he's doing. Rhys Hoskins can hit the ball pretty good. My only concern about Rhys Hoskins is if with him not coming, or with him coming off of injury, will he be able to get back to old Rhys Hoskins like he was in Philadelphia? I think that's the only concern I'd have with signing him. But once again, whoever we put at first base is probably going to be better than what we've had there. So I think it'd be good. I think it'd be a good sign for him, and hopefully that would propel us into another Central League division champ there.
The biggest thing with the Brewers right now is you're banking on rookies to lead your offensive charge. Like you were talking there, the outfield, relatively young. And then you got Bryce Terang and Andrew Monasterio on that infield. You're banking on so many young guys to produce on the offensive side. And that's where I think they're going to run into trouble. Whereas you look, last year, the offensive numbers, that's what killed the Brewers down the stretch. Like you were talking against the Diamondbacks, we were a team that was reliant on pitching. And pitching is what failed us in the end. We didn't have the offensive bats to back it up. We went out and got Josh Donaldson, and we thought that was going to be the answer there. He proved not to be the answer for the Brewers there late in the season. I thought that was a terrible signing. He had a couple big hits here and there, but other than that, I didn't think Josh Donaldson was a great signing for the Brewers. I thought they actually took away time from what Andrew Monasterio had given to the Brewers all season long. they took his spot away come playoff times, gave it to Josh Donaldson, and he didn't produce for the Brewers. So I thought that was a big kick right there. I expect Andrew Monasterio to probably be in there for that third base talk to start the season here. But I mean, Rogan, looking at this Brewer team right now, do you see the same thing with the offense right now? They're lacking in the offensive department. Last season they've lacked here for a couple years now. If we go all the way back to 2021, they made it to the playoffs there, played the Braves in that first round of the NLDS or whatever it was there. And Rowdy Tellez had that big home run that won game one. Other than that, the Brewers couldn't get anything going. After that, the offense has just been spotty. It's been real spotty for the Brewers. They need a clutch hitter moving into this next season. Somebody who's going to come through in the clutch for them when they need that big hit. And I don't think they have that on this roster. Now, I could be wrong. Rookies might develop into that guy. They have some pretty good rookies on this team, but I don't think you can rely so heavily on rookies going this next season. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, I don't think so. Because, I mean, you look at the Diamondbacks, and obviously they had some really young guys on that team, but how rare was that to see a team like the Diamondbacks make it to the World Series with how young they are? That's like that doesn't happen that often. So I don't think you can really rely that our rookies are going to step in and play right away like the Diamondbacks rookies did. And like you were saying, the offense has been really spotty the last couple of years, and especially on the power side, they don't have a lot of like power hitters. That's why signing some guys like Hoskins and Turner would be huge, because those are two reliable power hitters that once playoff time comes around, you have to have guys that can hit home runs. And especially like we were talking a couple of weeks ago, it used to be you had to piece together hits to score in the playoffs. Now it's kind of flipped, and you got to be able to hit home runs, especially like you look at a team like the Braves, or I mean the Phillies last year, all they did was hit home runs. So that would be huge for the Brewers to sign two guys like that, both reliable 30-plus home run hitters for this infield especially.
Yeah, I think those would be massive signings for the Brewers here. I mean, you look at the rest of the guys out there, Cody Bellinger, I expect him to be looking for some big money in free agency, so the Brewers will probably be out in that aspect. Clayton Kershaw doesn't really jump at me. I mean, Clayton Kershaw is getting a little bit older. If anybody wants him, it's going to be the Dodgers. I don't see Clayton Kershaw kind of venturing off anywhere else. Just some of the notables there. I mean, Brandon Belt, old first baseman for the San Francisco Giants. He was recently with the Blue Jays. He's out there in free agency. He could be a realistic signing for the Brewers, not as productive as what you would think with a Rhys Hoskins, but Brandon Belt still has a little bit in that bat, so he could be a signing for this Brewers team. Matt Chapman's out there. I don't see the Brewers going after Chapman, third baseman. Not huge. No, I mean, he's got good power numbers, not huge average, but I just believe Matt Chapman, for the amount of third base guys in free agency right now, I don't see Matt Chapman taking a very small contract, which is probably what the Brewers will be looking for in this free agent pool. And then also Blake Snell. He's another guy out there in free agency. I don't see Blake Snell signing with the Brewers. He's going to take a big contract to get Blake Snell anywhere. So realistically, right now, where the Brewers are at, Rhys Hoskins, Justin Turner, one or the other. I mean, you could get one or the other, and it would still bolster this lineup if you are the Brewers. I would definitely probably, end of the day, take Rhys Hoskins just because he's a little bit younger than Justin Turner, a little bit more control. He's a first baseman for you. I just believe that would be a better move for the Brewers, but I wouldn't be upset with Justin Turner. I wanted him 2 years ago, so that would have been good, but I mean, 3 years later is fine. That works too. So that's what we got for the Brewers today. Just a little bit of free agency talk with the Brewers and seeing where they're at right this second. Getting closer. We're getting closer to the time when pitchers and catchers will report down to Arizona. I believe that's in February. Isn't it February 24th? I believe, somewhere in there.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right. It's somewhere in that area. I'll take it. So with that, I want to move on here and talk about your hometown Century 21 Gold Key Realty. Call Peggy, Sue, or Anna to find your dream home, or if you're looking to sell, check them out on Facebook at your hometown team, Century 21 Gold Key Realty, or stop in and see them at their location in Marshfield. But with that, we got to get into the Badgers. Badgers taking on Minnesota tonight. That's going to be a big matchup for the Badgers coming off of a big win against Indiana. Got to get another one here against Minnesota. This one's going to be on the road against Minnesota. So should be a good matchup there. Badgers coming in at 14-4, dropping in the rankings there to 13. Minnesota coming into this one at 12-6. Nothing too shabby there from the Golden Gophers coming into this matchup. So Austin, who are we seeing for some big players to watch out for there for Minnesota.
Yeah, looking at Minnesota here, they're 12-6, so like you said, not too shabby. And they recently had one of their transfers. We just played him recently at Nebraska. I forget his name, but he transferred out. So they're kind of down a man now. They're led by Dawson Garcia, though, 7.7 points and 7.5 rebounds for the Golden Gophers there in 15 games. Pretty solid from him. And then they're also led by Joshua Ola Joseph here with 10.6 points per game. Mike Mitchell Jr., 10.4 points per game. And then Cam Christie, 10.4 points per game. So some decent scores here, 4 of them averaging in the double digits. Elijah Hawkins leads them with an assist with 7.8 and steals with 2.1. So definitely going to get after the ball there is Elijah Hawkins, a pretty good physical guard there, I'd say. And they're pretty good at moving the ball around here. 18.8 assists per game with 77 rebound points per game. So definitely a solid team here. And kind of Penn State was, could be another trap game here for the Badgers if they're not careful enough, if they don't have their defense stagnant there. So definitely going to be on the lookout for that, specifically their defense. We know, you guys will probably get into this too, but we know how good their offense is. It's how their defense is going to be able to play against these mediocre teams. That's what we want to see improve, and that's what we kind of want to see do better for the Badgers here. So overall, a solid team in Minnesota, 12-6, like I said. They haven't played anyone overly impressive. Mainly their hardest teams that they've played have been in the Big Ten here, like Ohio State. They beat Nebraska, and lately they've lost 3 straight to Indiana, Iowa, and Michigan State. All 3 teams that the Badgers have beat. So I don't know why we shouldn't be able to win this game, but if it is, it's a trap game, and that would not be good for the Badgers.
I think the crazy part about this entire series, Wisconsin versus Minnesota, 212th meeting coming up here tonight. The Badgers all time, 107 wins, 104 losses. So that's how close this series is between Minnesota and Wisconsin. Relatively close across the board there. Wisconsin's actually won 6 straight against Minnesota in 15 of the last 17 meetings. So as of late, Wisconsin has had the edge. But you look at the all-time series, this has been a close series between these two. It's not really comparable to North Carolina and Duke because that's where pristine is in college basketball. But this is a pretty close rivalry right here between these two. Badgers, 11-2 overall against Minnesota underneath the Greg Gard. So Greg Gard knows how to win it there against Minnesota. It doesn't matter if it's on the road or if it's in the Kohl Center. Looking at going into this week here, John Blackwell. He won Freshman of the Week one more time. He's got 3 now, I believe. He's won Freshman of the Week, 3 times now. He's won Freshman of the Week, and he's actually ranks 4th among Big Ten freshmen in scoring so far this season. So John Blackwell really helping carry this Badger team over a lot of humps so far this season where they have struggled. Looking at the impressive resume that is the Wisconsin Badgers right now, they actually rank 13th in the net rankings right now. Net rankings, quad 1, 2, 3 wins on the season, depending on where you're at. The Badgers they're 7-4 overall in quad 1 games, and in quad 2 games, quad 1 games are 5-3, 7-4 overall between quad 1 and 2 games on the season right now. So the Badgers been playing really well against good teams. That's what you want to see out of a Badger team here. The Badgers have 7 wins in quad 1 plus 2 games. Only Purdue, Tennessee, and UConn have more quality wins on the season. So right now, you look at the Badgers' resume, they stack up with some of the best in the country around the board there in wins as of late. And, another storyline leading up into this game, Max Klesman. The way that Max Klesman has been playing as of late, what does he have for an encore? Are we going to see another big performance out of Max Klesman here on the road at the barn there in Minnesota? Are we going to see another one? I can't wait to see it because this guy has been going off as of late, and it's been impressive to see. But in this game against Minnesota, the paint is going to be the big thing. They have some pretty good big men there in Minnesota, so the paint is going to be where the Badgers need to control it. On the rebounding the basketball, Badgers got to get in there and rebound. And then looking at just on the offense, getting the offense going through Steven Krell. I think the Badgers have gotten away from that at times. They've gotten away from moving that ball into the post. And I know it has a lot to do with the offense has been flowing a little bit faster, and they've been able to get good guard shooting there on the season. But I wouldn't go too far away from Big Steve there in the post, because when the Badgers are going 100% right, Big Steve is involved in the offense. And I think they got to stick with that in this game against Minnesota to really stick it to them, because Minnesota, they're long, they're lanky, they're going to get out on shooters, they're going to defend. You're playing at the barn. This is going to be a hostile environment, a tough place to shoot the basketball. It has been a tough place to shoot the basketball for the Badgers over the years. So looking at this game here, I think the paint is where the Badgers need to win this one. Tyler Wall, looking even at a guy like A.J. Storr, he gets a lot of post touches in there for A.J. I think A.J.'s got to win in the post there too. Going downhill and getting to the rim, but finishing at the rim, I think is going to be a big thing in this one, because we've seen the Badgers get to the rim. I think A.J. Storr still lacking the ability to finish at times. I'd love to see him develop that little aspect, because he gets to the rim lots of times out of control. So getting that into control, this is a good game for it here against Minnesota. So Rogan, anything you're keying in on in this game against Minnesota, the Badgers need to do right to take care of business here on the road?
Yeah, like you guys are saying, this game, Minnesota's not a bad team. Like, you look at that 12-6 record, and that's kind of this whole Big Ten conference. Outside of really, at the moment right now, the Badgers and Purdue with their records in Big Ten play, the rest of this conference is pretty much 500 so far in Big Ten play. So a lot of teams beating up on each other. And like Austin was saying, this feels like a game that's going to be really close, especially you're playing on the road. It's Minnesota, obviously. That's a decent rivalry there between the Badgers and Minnesota in basketball. And this team can really move the ball. I was kind of looking over some stats there, and they're averaging almost 20 assists per game, which for a college basketball team, that's really impressive. And like you were saying, they're pretty long too. They're averaging almost 5 blocks a game, so it's going to be hard for the Badgers to score inside, and they're going to have to be pretty mindful of those shot blockers, because they got quite a few on this Minnesota team. So I'm gonna be interested to see how our defense holds up with that pretty good ball movement that the Gophers have, and how our post players do down low with these blockers, and how our guards do on their drives here with these blockers that Minnesota does have.
Yeah, and I look at the Badgers, and we've talked defensively what they need to improve on, and that's right away in ball games. You look at the Ohio State game and Penn State game, both games that Ohio State jumped out to an 8-point lead early, and then Penn State had that 12-2 lead early on in that ball game. The Badgers weren't able to get back, and those two teams were able to jump out to early leads on this Badger team. So I think defense definitely, as we've talked about, is going to be a big thing to watch out for in this game. And like you guys were saying, on the road in the Big Ten, it's going to be a tough environment. It's going to be a close game. Defense is where you got to hang your hat. We've watched the Badgers at home, and they've been putting up points left and right. They've gone on the road, and they've given up a boatload of points. That's where I think the Badgers need to address it in this game. Can the Badgers win a dogfight? That's my question right now. Because we remember old Wisconsin basketball, they could win a dogfight. They could win 63-60. They could win 59-57, right? This Badger team now, the way the defense is playing, they don't get in dogfights right now. So can the Badgers, if this game is bad shooting all the way around for Wisconsin, can they defend to shut down Minnesota? That's what I wonder. That's my big question mark going into this game, because they've gotten away from it. We've seen that. They allowed 79 points to Indiana, who Indiana wasn't, going into that game, not a real high-scoring team. They weren't. And look at Penn State, not a very high-scoring team going into that game against Wisconsin. And yet Wisconsin allowed them to score, Indiana dang near 80. And looking at Penn State, they almost got up to 90 against this Badger team. We hadn't seen 90 against the Badgers before that. It was Arizona. But that's a complete different animal than what Penn State and Indiana are. So you're allowing, almost equal points to teams that are less. That's the big thing that I'm looking at in these matchups right now. So the defense has definitely taken a step back from where we started. My question mark, like I said, can the Badgers win a dogfight? That's what I want to see in this one. If this game gets into free throw battle, can the Badgers win it at the line? They've been shooting the ball well in this young season so far at the free throw line. Tyler Wall especially has seen a major uptick in his free throw percentage. But does it continue? Can they get to the line? Can they win it at the line? That's a question mark for me. The paint, like you said, they're at 5 blocks a game. They're gonna get up in your face. You got to be able to weather that storm and still be able to finish at the rim. I think that's going to be key. That is really going to be key, is finishing through contact in this game, because you can't have bailouts from the refs in this one, right? You can't blame the refs. You can't hope for a call. You got to be able to finish through contact and make a move to make a finish. And that's what I think the Badgers are really going to have to look at in this game here. So I'm looking at, for the Badgers to win this game, they got to have a big game out of Steven Crowl. I really do think they have to have a big game out of Steven Crowl, not just on the offensive end, but I think Steven Crowl needs to lock down the paint on the defensive end. And I'm also looking at, and this wouldn't be a guy you would expect, but I'm going to say Nolan Winter, because Steven Crowl is going to have to get pulled out of this game at some point, whether it's fouls, whether it's for rest, whatever it is. They have to have a big game out of Nolan Winter coming off the bench there in that big spot. Because like we were talking, with the length of Minnesota, you're going to have to be able to control the paint. And Nolan Winter coming in there, he's going to have to be able to help with that. So I really do think the two big men for Wisconsin, starting and coming off the bench, whoever it is, I'm going to go all bigs for Wisconsin, are going to have to play well in this game, not just on the offensive end, but especially on the defensive end in this one. So Rogan, who are you looking at for some of your key guys that have to play big for the Badgers in this one to pull off a win?
Yeah, Trage, like you were saying, for me, it's going to be important for our guards to have big games tonight, especially like I was kind of saying before there with the shot blockers that Minnesota does have. I could definitely see our bigs struggling to score. So I think this game's going to really come down to what our guards can do. So you guys got like Store. Let's see if Klesman can keep up the hot shooting. I think Klesman's going to get quite a few minutes. It'd be nice to see Chucky get it going at least once. I know Chucky he's done a lot better job at running the point this year, but it would be nice to kind of see him have another big game, because he hasn't had one of those in a long time. And I think he's the one guy on this team that can really go get his own shot, I think. Outside, Store is really athletic, but I think when you play some of these better teams, they're going to have more athletic guys to guard Store. Hepburn's the one guy on this team that I think can really just kind of go get his own shot, and that's going to be big when you start getting into these close games and you need a bucket late. So it'd be nice to see him maybe have a big second half or something like that to kind of put this Minnesota team away. But yeah, I think a guy like Crowell and Wall are really going to struggle tomorrow with how good this Minnesota interior is on defense, and I could see them not playing as much as they normally do, too, with the passing this Minnesota team has. I think you're going to need some more athletic guys out there like Blackwell to keep up with this ball movement and driving. So I look to our guards to have some big games tomorrow.
Yeah, and I key in on one thing you said there, and that was Chucky Hepburn, and seeing a big game out of him. He's, we always say end of the half, end of the second half, wherever it is at the end of a game, we want the ball in Chucky's hand to make a play. I don't want him to have the ball in his hand if he hasn't taken a shot all game. I don't want that to be the one shot he takes is in crunch time, because he doesn't even have an eye for a rim at that point. So, yeah, I agree with that 100%. We got to see a little bit more out of Chucky. Make it so you're at least a threat out there on the offense. He's so hesitant right now to shoot the basketball. Unless if it's wide open, we don't see Chucky doing what he used to do for this Badger team. So I agree with that. Chucky Hepburn definitely is going to have to at least put some points on the board here in this one. So, Austin, who are you looking at for some of your key guys who have to have big games here for the Badgers to pull off the win here on the road?
Yeah, I'm looking at Max Klesman mainly because I just want to see him stay consistent with how hot he's been. I think this is pretty cool what we're kind of seeing here. And I feel like at some point it's going to dwindle down, and it might hurt us at some point if he doesn't stay hot. And then I'm also looking at Tyler Wall on the inside. He only had 10 points last game, and it didn't hurt us. We still scored 90-something points there. But I think we are better when Tyler Wall is really good inside. Even Steven Crowl, like you said, Trage, like you were talking there. But Tyler Wall, I think, is going to have a big game with those guys, with the Minnesota Gophers, maybe keen in on Steven Crowl there on the inside there. So I think it's going to be Tyler Wall and Max Klesman again. And then obviously he's going to have his help from AJ Store. And I don't know about Chucky Hepburn. Chucky Hepburn, not the same Chucky Hepburn that we've been seeing, like you guys were saying, been different. So I think it's a good difference too. I think it's a good difference or we're not relying on him as much as we had to in the past. I think that's good for him, but also at the same time, it's like give me some points here. At some point, it's gonna have to come back. It's gonna come back to hurt us if he doesn't score a little bit there. So should be a good game, and hopefully we pull this one out in the barn.
Yeah, I key in on something you said there, and that was about Max Klesman's hot shooting. That's my worry right now. Is the Badgers are hot on the offensive end, right? They're hot. They're. I mean, everything's firing all cylinders. What happens when it goes cold? That's what we've been keying in on the defensive end. That's the worry is, like you said, Max Klesman, it's all going good, but at one point, everything's going to fall apart again. We were used to Max Klesman he was averaging 9 points and below a game. He was getting us maybe 3, maybe 6. Now he's up in the 20s, right? But what happens if it drops? Then what do you do if you are the Badgers? I think that's a big thing to watch with this Badger team is, like I said earlier, how do they respond on the defensive end when everything is going wrong on the offensive end? I think that's going to be a big thing to watch out for there, traveling to the barn in this one. So Badgers, Minnesota coming up tonight. Massive matchup for Wisconsin there. Some of that the border battle is renewed there. 6 o'clock on Big Ten Network. So with that, I just want to talk about the NCAA Top 25 was released there yesterday. UConn came in at the number 1 spot, followed by Purdue. North Carolina climbs all the way up to that 3 spot now. Impressive work out of the Tar Heels there, starting out where they did, moving up to 3 now. Houston's still in there at the 4. Tennessee's at the 5. Then Kentucky, Kansas, Auburn, Arizona at the 9. Illinois sitting there at 10. Oklahoma at 11, Duke at 12, Wisconsin and Marquette. Wisconsin coming in at 13, Marquette at 14, Baylor at the 15 spot, then Dayton, then we got Creighton, then we got Utah State. I'm not sure what I think about Utah State, but they're in there. They're in there at that 18 spot, followed by Memphis, Texas Tech, and then we have BYU, followed by FAU. I don't know how FAU continues to stay in the top 25 just because of the close matchups they had against terrible teams, but FAU remains in there. Iowa State coming in at 23. Colorado State. If there's a team I don't want to face if I was a powerhouse team, Colorado State. I wouldn't want to see them. They have really good shooters on that Colorado State team. I would not want to touch that team anywhere, anyhow, even on an alternate court, would not want to face them. And then looking at last there, New Mexico State coming in that 25 spot. So I guess, surprises in the top 25, not really any surprises besides FAU. We talk about it every time we see them still in there. FAU still remaining in that top 25. They've had some bad losses, and also they've had some terrible wins, as you could say. They've won a couple. I think they beat Tulane by 2, and Tulane is a very bad program, and they beat them by 2. BYU remains in that top 25. Memphis, I believe they took a loss, an upset loss, and they remain in that 19 spot. So, Rogan, looking at top 25, any surprises that you're seeing in that top 25 right now?
Yeah, Trage, I was just kind of looking at that. And a team that nobody's kind of talking about? Illinois. They're in there at 10. And have we spoke about Illinois at all when we've talked about the Big Ten Conference this year yet? I don't think so. And
I was Purdue really surprised. Wisconsin.
Yeah. You don't really hear about Purdue and Wisconsin, and that's kind of it. But Illinois is in there at 10, and they've played some really good teams and beat them. They beat a Florida Atlantic team. They lost to a Tennessee team, but that was early in the year, a pretty good team in themselves. But they've played a lot of high-ranked opponents and either won or lost really close games. So they're going to be a problem, and I don't think anyone's talking about them, giving them enough credit. But like you said, you see the Badgers fall down 2 spots there. It's finally nice to see Marquette ranked behind the Badgers. We've been waiting for that for, it feels like, all year basically now. And like you said, some of these teams that are kind of hanging on at the end here is getting a little ridiculous, like that Florida Atlantic team who's been in the top 25 forever, and it feels like they keep losing or winning close games against bad teams. But, and I'm just looking at the things now. I see that Baylor, I don't know, we had them as our mascot fight of the week, and that was quite a battle Saturday. Texas beat them 75-73. So I think for our first ever mascot fight of the week, I think we did pretty good, boys.
Yeah, we did. Longhorns win it, though. We called it. We called the Longhorns would win that one. I was thinking about Illinois. You're right. Nobody talks about them. The best thing about Illinois right now is they're winning without Terrence Shannon Jr. That's a big thing for Illinois. Is they're winning without one of their top players, not knowing what's really going to happen with him. I know he's going to be back here, I thought, pretty soon. He got in some trouble. I don't remember what was going on with his whole situation. I wasn't really in tune to it. It was, normal stuff that happens with college players. But he's been out for a little bit. But you look at this Illinois team, some pretty good wins there, some not so good losses. One to Maryland. Maryland's a struggling team, but they're, again, Big Ten team. But the problem was that was in Champaign. That was at Illinois that they took that loss to Maryland. So I'm not really sure with that loss. They're 14-4. That's a bad loss right there. So I don't know how they jumped as high as what they did. To me, I mean, they have a win over Florida Atlantic, but the way we're talking, we don't even think Florida Atlantic should be in the top 25. So what does that really caliber for a win there? They have a loss to Tennessee and then a loss to Purdue. Other than that, they have some good wins. Not going to say they don't have some good wins on that resume. They beat Northwestern at Northwestern 96-66. That's a blowout win, especially Northwestern was at Champaign, but still, heck of a win there. So, I mean, some good wins there across the board, but yeah, surprising that nobody talks about them. Nobody talks about Illinois' climb to the top 10 now in the country. So, Austin, looking at the top 25, any surprises on your end looking at that top 25 right now?
Yeah, I'm looking at Maryland or Marquette still. Why did they beat Villanova and St. John's, but I mean, I feel like those aren't very quality wins right there. Like Villanova maybe, but they barely beat St. John's. I feel like the only reason why they got bumped up 3 spots is because they won their games and the other teams that were underneath them lost. So that's kind of what I'm looking at for Marquette there, sitting at 14. Some other teams, New Mexico at 25, no idea what they have. I don't think anyone watches some of those teams sometimes, and they kind of just pop and then 25, and then the next week they're gone because they lose to some team in their conference. But shout out to New Mexico for cracking the top 25, I guess. Besides that, I mean, the top 5 has kind of been consistent no matter who's moving up or who's moving in. Kansas, I guess, dropped down, so that hurts Kansas, but I'm sure they're going to be right back to where they were at the end of the year at some point, just because it's Kansas and everyone kind of rides them all the time. But besides that, I think this is a pretty equal men's top 25 ranking this year. Florida Atlantic, like we were saying, I mean, they just went to an overtime team with UTSA. So that I don't understand how they're ranked number 22. But they are. I think the only thing that's keeping them on holding by a thread is the Arizona win. At some point, we're gonna be like, where'd Florida Atlantic go? And it's gonna be like, thank God they're gone, because I think they're the most fraudulent out of this whole group here in the top 25. But besides that, it's another week to just improve on the rankings for each team. And at the end of the day, these don't really mean anything. So it's just fun to see what they are, at what they're ranked at the time. And I don't think anyone's going to be out being UConn anytime soon. I mean, with the conference that UConn plays in, the hardest team they're going to play is Marquette. And pretty sure last time they played, they kind of beat them pretty badly. So should be pretty easy for UConn.
Do you guys know is Klingon back yet for Marquette or no? The big guy?
No.
I know he's been hurt quite a.
I believe he is not back for UConn yet. No, I believe he is not back yet. But that is what is so impressive about UConn, is that even without one of the best big men in the country, they're still taking care of business. And, that has a lot to do with head coaching. And Hurley has done a fantastic job with UConn. The way that program was a couple years ago to what it is now, Dan Hurley has turned that program around to, last year, the NCAA tournament, I don't think they played a close game. They routed everybody on the way to that national championship. And all they did was in the offseason reloaded and just said, here, let's run it back one more time. Got all new guys and just reloaded. And fantastic work that he does. He's a heck of a head coach, really under the radar when he went to UConn. And now looking at him, it's like, where was this guy and why didn't Wisconsin end up with him? Love Greg Gard. But Dan Hurley has done a fantastic job with UConn. And they are just so deep. The depth of UConn is ridiculous. They can go 5-6 deep on that bench, and they're still okay. they're still scoring the basketball. I think that is what's so impressive about this UConn team. So with that, moving out of the top 25, I just wanted to mention 2 games in action tonight. We're going to have Wisconsin women's are in action against the Minnesota Gophers along with the men's. This one will be at the Kohl Center. The women's will be playing. So it should be a good matchup there. Hopefully we see a double border battle win. Wisconsin women's get the win at home, and then the Badgers go on the road there and get a win. And then also Marquette women will be taking on UConn. That should be a massive heavyweight battle there in the Big East. 2 top of the conference teams right there, both coming into this one at, well, UConn's coming in 16-3, Marquette coming in 15-3. UConn, I mean, they've been fantastic for how many years straight, so it's hard to beat UConn. But Marquette playing some good basketball as of late. Hopefully we see a big matchup there in a Big East battle. So that's about all we got for the NCAA front. Just want to talk about here Game Day Supply in Onalaska. Do you have a sports club or team? Are you looking for some sweet custom uniforms or apparel? Check out the awesome crew at Game Day Supply to help your team get the sweetest gear. Find them on Facebook at Game Day Supply or online at GameDaySupply.net. But with that, I want to jump over to Austin here. We got to get to our fact of the day.
On this day in 1879, we're going way back here. The U.S. This is kind of a sport that no one never talks about, but I thought it was pretty cool because how old it is. But it's still a sport. People play in the Olympics here. 1879, the United States National Archery Association is formed in Crawfordsville, Indiana. United States Archery Association. No one talks about archery enough, Trage. You know how much. That's a lot of talent you need to shoot a bow through a target there, you know? And I feel like some of them archers, you know, especially the Italians. I saw in the Olympics, the Italians are good at bullseye every time. I thought it was pretty impressive. But now, in 1879, they brought it to America.
No one never. No one never.
So everybody talks about it.
Everybody talks about archery is what I got out of that. Everybody's talking about it.
My grammar was probably off there.
Hey, it's that lacrosse. It's that lacrosse education, guys.
No. Your grammar was definitely off there. I mean, it wasn't a question if it was or not.
No one ever talks about it.
No one ever. There we go. Better.
No.
That's better. I'll take it.
Give him his degree.
I give you a gold star.
Give me the keys.
Slap
Give me
on
the
back,
keys.
buddy. Atta boy. Lacrosse got problems with the chancellor. Lacrosse got problem with the chancellor right now. I don't think they give away degrees at the moment. But
He's
with
gone.
that,
He's
I want to
gone.
move on. He's gone. I want to get into the NFL weekend recap. Just wanted to touch into some of the games that we saw over this last weekend. Didn't get into them there yesterday talking about the Packers solely. So we had the Ravens beat the Texans. Now I gotta look back here. I know I had the Texans winning that one, so I'm gonna fall apart with my first one there. So we have 1 point for Rogan and 1 point for Austin for that first one. And then in our second game, everybody had the Packers. I wanted to take the 49ers. You guys talked me back. So we all took a loss there. You guys tricked me. You really did. Looking at that third game of the day, or on Sunday, we had the Buccaneers and Lions. Everybody had the Lions winning that matchup. So as of right now, you guys are up 2-1. Looking at that last matchup there, we had the Chiefs take down the Bills. The only person with the Bills was Austin. Both of us had the Chiefs. So if we tally it up there, we had 2 for Trajan. We had 2 for Austin, and we had 3 for Rogan. So Rogan takes the win there in this. Austin, you and I have tied 2 weeks in a row. That's all I want to say. We've tied.
Yeah, not a good look on my part.
We tied.
Oh.
Not a good look on your part.
Yeah.
You took your money to the bank with Josh Allen and the Bills, and you had to know when Patty Mahomes came to town. I got to say, though,
they should have had
I love seeing Jason Kelsey more than I love seeing Taylor Swift. I thought Jason Kelsey was the highlight of the night.
That's what we need more of. We need more of that.
That's what I'm saying.
I I hope next week Jason Kelsey shows up again so we can see him instead of Taylor Swift. That would be
That's what I'm
amazing.
Did you like seeing him, or did you just like seeing that he had his shirt off, Trey? Let's be honest.
Well, both.
Shirt off. He's the sexiest man in the world. We're talking about Jason Kelsey right now. Come on.
Did you see he's up for sexiest man of the world, I'm pretty sure.
That's what I'm saying. He's up for sexiest man in the world. I don't know who's voting because this guy walks out of the locker room with flip-flops on and it's snowing outside. But that is my guy.
When it comes from Jason Kelsey, it's strictly business, all right? Strictly business.
Business casual. Business casual. He's party on the bottom, business on top. You know, he's looking good on top, but he's got flip-flops on.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it when you get to the league.
Did you see what his kid texted his wife? Jason Kelsey's?
Some about what was it? I think I saw it.
Yeah, his little daughter texts his wife. She's like, "Mom, tell Dad to put his shirt back on. You can see his boobies."
Now we have to rate it R, Rogan. Now we have to explicit.
That's on me, boys. That's on me.
I gotta get everybody that bleep button. We gotta all have that bleep button. So if we're gonna say something, we can just beep it out. We can just beep out right away. Nobody can hear it
on the internet. Flag it.
We're not on air. We're not on live television. We can say whatever we want. Not whatever we want, Austin. Never mind. Be quiet. So with that, I just want to move on, talk about Pittsville Farm and Home Center. At the store, they serve you anything from hydraulic hoses to red roses. Stop in and see the awesome crew down there at Pittsville Farm and Home Center in Pittsville. So, I mean, jumping back into that, the action over the weekend, any surprise games? I mean, to be honest, the Bills and Chiefs would be the only one for me. I thought the Bills could maybe pull it off at home. I really did think they had that shot in this one. They were moving the football a little bit, but the Chiefs ended up out on top. Other than that, I mean, Lions, 49ers, in the end of the day, we kind of expected that. Most of America did. And looking at the Ravens and Texans, I mean, Texans traveling up to the Ravens, been blowing teams out all year, so kind of expected. So, Austin, jumping to you right away. Any surprises over the weekend?
Not really a surprise, but it's why did the Buccaneers not call a timeout there? I've seen a lot of other people talk about this, but the Buccaneers could have called a timeout when Detroit was kneeling the ball out. The Detroit Lions, they got the ball after the interception at the end of the game there, ran it a couple times, and then it was like third and something, and then there was still probably a minute left, and they knelt the ball, and then it was fourth down, and the Buccaneers had a timeout left. It probably would have been a 48-yard field goal because they call a timeout, they'd have to kick it. They can't kneel it, otherwise they'll just go over into the Buccaneers. So they'd have to kick the field goal there, and it probably would have been a 40-something yard field goal. Not an easy field goal to make by any means, and we've seen the kickers the past few days, see how they're able to kick. So, but Todd Bowles, the head coach of the Buccaneers, when asked why he didn't take a timeout there at the end, he's like, well, they would have made the kick anyways, and then whatever. You don't know that, though. You don't know that. You're playing to go to the NFC Championship here. You still got a timeout left. Last time I checked, when you're the team that's losing, unless if it's obvious, like the Cowboys versus the Packers, but that game was close enough that you could use all your timeouts and people would understand. That's not a unsportsmanlike thing to do or whatever. And honestly, that's just foolish by the Lions for even just kneeling the ball out there at the end, not really knowing clock management or having any sense of that. I think the Buccaneers definitely still could have had a chance to win there, but instead they didn't call a timeout, and Lions are going to the NFC Championship. And then also, I mean, with how close the Packers versus San Francisco game was, I think the Lions a lot of people are more looking at the Lions saying that they could have a chance here in San Fran because, I mean, I'm pretty sure the line is only 6.5 right now. In favor of the 49ers. And I think I think it might be even closer than that with how the 49ers were playing against the Packers. Lions beat the Packers one time here, lost to the Packers, but I mean, they didn't look overly impressive against the Packers until the 2 minutes left in the game. So definitely it's going to be a good NFC Championship, and AFC Championship, Lamar Jackson's going to have to do us all a favor and just beat the Kansas City Chiefs so we don't see Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I was this is getting more into the Packers, but I took, a real long look at that game. And the Packers, the 49ers came out rusty. And the Packers had their shots early in this one to win it. They couldn't. The 49ers weathered that storm. And, your good teams find a way, right? They found a way at the end of that game to pull it out. Not really ideal if you're a Packer fan, but if you're a 49er fan, look good on your end seeing the 49ers come back. They haven't trailed. They don't trail too often. When they do, they lost games early on this year. So, good to see if you're a 49er fan there. Definitely interesting to hear what the Buccaneers coach had to say. Even if they make that field goal, you still have, like you said, just under a minute. Realistically, the game's over, but you still play the game out. You can still make something happen, and then onside kick with little time, still have time in that ball game. So definitely interesting there on his end. So Rogan, jumping to you, any surprises there over this last weekend there in the weekend slate?
Yeah, Trey, it's really, if you kind of go back to last Friday, how I picked the games, they kind of, like I was saying with that Baltimore game, I thought Baltimore was going to win big, so that wasn't really a surprise to me. I thought that Buccaneers Lions game could kind of be close, but I thought the Lions were going to take care of business. They did. And like I said with that Bills game, like I wanted the Bills to win, but I didn't like picking against Mahomes when everyone's saying he can't win on the road. And that's exactly what he did, is went in there and won a road game. Not to be a Packer guy, but that was the game I was most surprised with, was how well the Packers did against the 49ers. But just for to kind of, we can talk about Packers later. I will say I'm surprised that this Chiefs offense all of a sudden has come alive after struggling all year long. These wide receivers are making some big time plays now, and man, if that offense continues to play how they have through these first two games of the playoffs with the defense they finally have, like I hate to say it, but I could see Mahomes winning Super Bowl number 3, because this offense has been doubted all year long. Everyone's been saying Kelsey's washed, but you watch these two playoff games, and these wide receivers aren't dropping balls like they were in the regular season, and Kelsey's getting open again like he used to. So that's a scary team right now. But like you said, I hope Baltimore. Baltimore is playing so good right now. I just can't see anybody beating Baltimore right now.
When I looked at that Bills-Chiefs matchup, if there was one team coming out of there that I thought had a chance, I really did think it was the Chiefs. Just because their defense and Patrick Mahomes. But, it's like you said, the receivers for the Chiefs, it's proven Scantley, he can only catch in the postseason. That's when he comes up with his big games. In the postseason, he'll come up with whatever catch you need him to make. That's when he shows up. So, definitely, like you said, surprising how fast they've turned it around. And looking at the Bills, does McDermott have a job next year? Because he's had some questionable play calls, questionable use of Josh Allen in this offense. We saw what was successful for the Bills, sticking to the run game. All of a sudden, there against the Chiefs, they were trying to air it out. They were going for the long ball there with a lot of time left in this game. So kind of surprising play calls on the Bills side. Bill Belichick is a talk, and, the Bills cross off a lot of things on his bucket list. He wants to stay kind of in the realm of the Patriots, wants to be a competitor to the Patriots, wants to go to a team that's on the cusp of going to the playoffs or possibly a Super Bowl. That's the Bills. And if they don't believe that McDermott can get it done, which we've seen over the past there, if you believe Josh Allen's your franchise quarterback and you believe you're right on the verge, it's the head coaching position that needs to be changed. And bringing in a guy like Bill Belichick definitely does not take you a step back. It probably brings you a little bit forward there, him knowing how to win, especially come postseason time. So definitely interesting to see there the Bills losing once again, and in heartbreak fashion too. A missed field goal there by Bass late that would have tied this one. That's the way the Bills' seasons have gone. And my favorite part of that entire thing was they were throwing snowballs onto the field there at Chiefs players after the game. I thought that was hilarious. And then Patrick Mahomes, watching him after his interview, he ran over to give, I don't know if he gave a glove or what he did to that little fan wearing the Mahomes jersey, but they're firing snowballs at him as he's running over there, and he's got to dodge out of the way quick and hand it up there. So I thought that was definitely cool to see there for the Chiefs. But definitely leading up in some big NFC championships matchups that we will cover here as we get later on into the week. But right now, I want to jump into the Packers, just kind of going off of what we talked yesterday. And we've had time to process, have time to go through it here. And I just wanted to look at, first and foremost, what Matt LaFleur had to say about Anders Carlson. And that's when he goes out there to kick, he says a prayer. He said it point blank in an interview that he basically says a prayer for what's going to happen. That's terrible. I mean, really thinking about it in the grand scheme of things. You just basically said, your kicker's bad. We have to say a prayer hoping he's going to knock this one through the uprights. And if that was the case, this has been leading up for a very long time. This has been in the works, right? It's been happening all season long. You just don't all of a sudden jump to this conclusion with a guy. So when I hear him say that, it begs me to the question of, why did we stick it out with him then? Why did it get to this point? You knew what you had. You watched all season long with Anders Carlson, the problems there from 40 to 49 yards, from 50 plus. We saw the problems. For a guy, you don't draft a kicker, right? You don't draft a kicker. You wait for them to be out in free agency, then you grab a kicker. That's how kickers work. The Packers jumped on him in the 6th round. So when you jump on a kicker in the 6th round, you better be for dang sure that you are getting what you want in a kicker in that spot. And the Packers got Anders Carlson. That was their guy. They told us, this is a big leg guy. We're going to have problems kicking. He's going to have problems kicking out of the end zone every time. I think his touchback rate is ridiculously low from what I saw. I can't remember the numbers there, but his touchback rate was ridiculously low. Probably, I think he was bottom of kickers actually in the league. And then you look at his problems there from 40 to 49. He was 4 for 9 on the season. I saw a stat. They compared him to Mason Crosby, I believe, and they were looking at the two compared to each other. And if I can find that stat, I had it up earlier. And if I can find it, I'll talk about it here. But, oh, yeah, right here. Crosby was 9 for 14. Everybody wants to compare him to Crosby in his first season because they think that they are so similar and everything like that. Crosby was 9 for 14 from 41 to 49 yards in his rookie season. Carlson was 4 for 9. And in addition to that, 5 extra point misses on the season. I don't think you can compare the two. Mason Crosby, you knew what you had. He was hitting it from deep. He had a couple misses here and there. He had 5 misses on the season from 41 to 49, but a larger sample size, right? He kicked a couple more field goals there. Anders Carlson never showed it. That's the thing. So when you went all season and we got to the point where the head coach of the Green Bay Packers is saying, we have to say a prayer for him, that's an issue. That's an issue with Brian Gutekunst. That's an issue with Matt LaFleur. Why did it get to this point where in one of the most crucial games of the season, you had to basically say a prayer when he walked out on the field to kick that field goal? I mean, Rogan, jumping to you right away with this, what are you seeing right now, hearing what Matt LaFleur had to say and having some time to process it? Because we talked about it a little bit yesterday, but having time to process it now, I think it's a load of bullcrap. And I think it's the easy way out on a guy where we knew there was a problem. We just chose not to look into it.
Yeah, like that's really concerning to me because if you're going to your special teams coordinator and praying before every time your kicker kicks, that means you don't have trust in them. And if you've been doing that all year long, like why haven't you looked elsewhere to maybe bring a guy in? Like if you're praying, that means you know it's a problem. So I don't know why you wouldn't attempt to fix that. But in Carlson's defense there with the touchback things, I think that's just more of like you see a lot of teams doing that now. They like to kick the ball to like the 5-6 yard line and then try to make a tackle instead of giving the ball to the 25. So I don't know if that's so much him. I think that's more maybe a scheme by Bisaccia there. But going off like his field goal kicking, my basketball coach actually sent me his stats in college today. And if you look at them, his stats in college over 4 years are identical to what his stats have been this year. 40 and in, this guy's a great kicker. 40 and over, he's hitting like 50%. So kind of going off the last couple of weeks, we've been talking like you got to bring him back and hopefully like he develops into a better kicker. Well, I think it's 5 years of evidence now that this guy's not getting any better on these longer 40-plus field goals. And if you can't make a 40-plus field goal very consistently in the NFL, you do not deserve to have a kicking job.
Yeah, and I agree with the touchback thing is it might have been a scheme. My only problem is that the Packers coverage team was not very good this season. I didn't think they were good. So at that aspect, you look at the Cowboys game, Turpin was getting out to the 30-35. He was dang near busting some out there against Green Bay. So I ran into a problem there. But yeah, looking at Anders Carlson, I mean, the big thing they bragged up against or bringing him in was that he had this big leg. And now looking at the college stats, even like you said, terrible, just terrible at 40 yards plus. You can't bring a guy into an NFL organization who is you can't draft a guy like that. If you would, I mean, we're hoping that he ends up like his brother. Is it his brother or is it his cousin? Whatever it is. They're just hoping that he ends up like him. He has that bounce back here. I don't see it. I really don't. I think you have to bring in competition. You can't back out of it now because now that draft pick looks stupid because you wasted a 6th-round pick on him. So it looks terrible if you just automatically cut him. But I think you do have to bring in competition. You definitely have to bring in competition for him there moving forward. So, I mean, Austin, jumping to you, I know you got a little bit on the topic there. I mean, hearing what Matt LaFleur had to say, that's ridiculous. So what are you seeing right now, and what are your thoughts on where we're at right now in the kicking situation in Green Bay?
Like you were saying, bring some competition in. Now there's this new league, the UFL. That's kind of where Brandon Aubrey came for the Dallas Cowboys there. I mean, he was originally a soccer player, and then I'm pretty sure he got drafted in some soccer league. And then he wanted to play college, or he wanted to play football, and then he got in the XFL or USFL or something. Got drafted or picked up from the Cowboys, and you look how good he was this year. Maybe that's somewhere where the Packers have to look at that UFL league there. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a kicker that stands out to someone out of that league there, and that might be the place where you have to find your kicker. And then going off of what Rogan was saying for the stats of Anders Carlson in college, they're not good. They're not good. I mean, he can make an extra point, but in college, extra points like a 15 or a 25-yard field goal. When you look at overall in his career in Auburn, he's a 71.8% field goal percentage. That's his percentage there. That's how many that's the percent he's made, which is not good when you're going to draft. If you're going to draft a kicker, I mean, they better be better than a career 71.8% there. Just not good. His senior year, he went 12 for 17 in field goals made there compared to field goals attempted there. And then in 2019, he was 18 for 25. The year before, in 2021, he was 14 for 21. And then 2019 wasn't his worst year, but 18 for 25. But his senior year his worst year was 70% there. So I just don't know. He has a big leg, but where's the accuracy? That's what I'm looking at. I don't know what the Packers were looking at there either. And I saw some post on, I think it was Facebook or something, that the Packers special teams coordinator, Rick Bisaccio, not very, I don't know, these 2 years, kind of not too good. We kind of brought him in thinking that he'd be better than he is, but you look at the decisions he's kind of made there with Amari Rodgers last year, and then we finally put Keyshawn Nixon in there. We should have had Keyshawn Nixon in there the whole time. We know that Amari Rodgers was going to be fumbling the ball every time he touched it or was not going to be getting any yards, and now we see the decision with Anders Carlson there. I don't know if that was – obviously that probably wasn't fully his decision on drafting him, but it makes you question. It definitely makes you question. He was probably in the room with that decision on we need a kicker now. And I don't know. Anders Carlson, looking at his stats, they're not the greatest. So don't know what they were seeing there. And I do feel, I don't know, I shouldn't feel bad for him because this is your profession. This is your career that you kind of done. But it would suck to be that player if your coach says every time you're out there that you're praying that he does something, that would, like, personally as a player, that would hit you right in the heart. But I mean, it is true. I think every fan for a Green Bay Packer was praying that he'd make the kick or make a kick every time that he's out there. So, I mean, Matt LaFleur's just being honest there. I mean, I know our old baseball coach, Ken Hinker, would always say, truth hurts or honesty hurts. Well, it does. And here's just another case where we see another coach saying that, and, truth hurts, but it's the truth, and make some kicks, and maybe you won't be getting yelled at or criticized as much.
Yeah, gotta agree with you there on that. I just found this stat on his touchback rate, 43%. He had the lowest among kickers in the NFL. To put that in comparison, the Cowboys rookie kicker, dang near 90% touchback rate. That's where you're looking at your difference there of where you needed your guy to be, and he was undrafted. looking at that guy for the Cowboys. Packers would have had a shot at him, drafting him up. And you look at what we got. This is what we got. So, I mean, definitely a missed pick, I think, there. You can't really blame it, though, because Gutekunst had a pretty good draft besides that, looking at the rest of these guys. So, definitely something the Packers need to key in on. We're going to talk more about things the Packers need to key on here going into the offseason. But to end it here, I want to end it on a good note. I want to get into our Green Bay Packers awards for the season, okay? So we got our MVP. Right away, I want to jump into MVP. So I'm going to jump to Rogan right away. Rogan, who is your MVP for the Packers here on this season?
Yeah, Trage, I think an obvious pick could be like Jordan Love, but for me personally, I got to go with Matt LaFleur because, I mean, you look at some of these crazy stats they got out there with how young this team was, and you compare them to other teams that were this young. Like, I think they're the second youngest team since like the 80s, and the other youngest team was the 2017 Browns, and they didn't win a single game. So to do what Matt LaFleur was able to do with this team with how young they were, like that was – especially with how bad of a start they had, because you could see with how bad of a start they could have had, you could have seen this team nosedive with a bunch of young guys kind of pack it in. It's not like they have a bunch of vets that know how to win and could turn it around. Like, these are young guys, and they had to learn on the fly. So to do what LaFleur did with this team, I think he was the MVP this year, followed closely by Jordan Love, obviously, quarterback.
I can only imagine what Austin's answer is going to be. So I'm going to jump to Austin, the love man himself, the love train. I can only imagine the MVP.
I'm going to pick an actual player here because it's the most valuable player, and Matt LaFleur did not play a game. So I'm going to go with Jordan Love. I'm pretty sure that's pretty obvious. The man was second or third in the league in touchdowns. Yes, he did throw in a pretty bad ball to end the season, but the Packers wouldn't be there without him. I think anyone can agree with that. I mean, he definitely, you saw the progression the whole year too. He started out, that first game against the Bears, we thought he was going to be all pro, but let's be honest, that wasn't real. But then he hit a few bumpy roads there, but towards the end of the year, there was that stretch where he threw how many, I don't even remember what it was. He was something for how many touchdowns to one interception. It was just crazy. And I think the progression that he's had, definitely my MVP, especially with the players that he was playing with too. A bunch of first-year, second-year players. He had Aaron Jones, but that's about it. All you can do is hand the ball off to him, really. So definitely a great job by Jordan Love, and he is my most valuable player there, Rogan.
I was fine with Rogan's answer. I thought it was a pretty well thought out of the box answer to the question. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, who cares, Austin? Get off my case. He was the most important person to this team this year.
Most valuable coach.
So Austin took Jordan Love. I won't take Jordan Love. I'm going to take Aaron Jones. Now, I know Aaron Jones out for a lot of games this season, but I thought his impact on the Packers when he came back at the end of the season here, his 5 straight games with 100-plus yards rushing, I thought that was massive. And he brought this team back. When he came back, they were on the verge of not making the playoffs. They were still on the bubble. And I thought his impact in the run game is what really put him over the edge. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones. I know he didn't play a complete season, but, look at the grand scheme of things. Jordan Love didn't have a first half of the season. It wasn't fantastic. It was the second half of the season. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones because I don't want to take Jordan Love and double down, even though I think Jordan Love deserves it. I'm going to give it to Aaron Jones there. So let's look at Defensive Player of the Year. Rogan, I went to you first with the MVP, so I'm going to go to you first here with defense. What do you got for your Defensive Player of the Year for the Green Bay Packers? He's thinking. He's really thinking. He's thinking outside the box here.
I'll say mine first if he's not going to answer.
All right, Austin, what do you got for your Defensive Player of the Year?
I'm going to go Rashawn Gary. You see a guy, he got injured. He got injured last year, torn ACL. He comes back. We don't really know what he's going to do. But, there were some games where he kind of just dominated it. I don't really know who else to pick because our defense was not good. Let's be honest. Maybe Quay Walker. I feel like Quay Walker would be another, but I'll save that one for Rogan. No, knowing Rogan, he'll probably pick Joe Barry because MVC. But I gotta go. Rashawn Gary here. He had some really good games in there, and I don't know. He was just kind of the leader of that D line there. They had Preston Smith, but he wasn't doing a really whole lot. And there were some games in there, like I said before, that Rashawn Gary kind of carried this defense. So I got to go him.
So, Rogan, what do you got now? You've had some time to think. What do you got for your defensive player of the year?
Yeah, my bad, boys. Austin, that's just disrespectful with you again with Joe Barry. You know my true feelings about him, so don't even. Like Austin was saying, Quay had a good year, but I'm going to go with Carrington Valentine. I think he was the defensive player of the year this year. Especially, I don't think his stats were phenomenal. Like Quay had a great year statistically wise, but you're talking a rookie coming in, and there was quite a few games where he was our number one quarterback. Seeing that Rasul Douglas got traded, Jair was hurt, Eric Stokes was never able to come back. And you look at his numbers, and he competed with the best cornerbacks in the leagues number-wise with completion percentage and passing yards allowed and stuff like that. So for him to come in as a rookie, and he wasn't even expected to play, and then to be thrust into a starting role for as long as he did, I got to give it to him. He had an incredible year, and I think he's going to be a future star for this Packers defense here.
Yeah, I like that one there. Again, Bryant Gutekunst with another very good diamond in the rough pick there in Valentine. I'm going to go outside the box. I'm going to go Jonathan Owens, Mr. Simone Biles, out there in that safety spot. If you look at his stats on the year, now he came into the Packers wasn't really expected to be a number one guy on this Packers team, but you look at his stats throughout the year, 84 tackles out there in the secondary. You look at that game against the Lions, had a fumble recovery for a touchdown. He had a forced fumble. This guy was all over the place. I loved his hit on Patrick Mahomes that he stuck him on the sideline. I thought that was hilarious. And Mahomes, they ended up I think they got the call there. I think they got the call for it, but shouldn't have been a call. And I thought Jonathan Owens coming into a place that in his first year, we didn't expect greatness or anything out of him. I thought he played fantastic in the safety position, and he was kind of a mainstay. He was kind of holding down a spot until other guys came back from injury, and he ended up holding it down, and that was his spot to lose at that point. So I thought Jonathan Owens, you guys took some of the main guys off the defense there to really nitpick at. Another guy for me, nobody named Quay Walker, but Isaiah McDuffie. He was second in the team in tackles on the season. I thought McDuffie played a fine linebacker with losing out on Quay Walker for some games there and Campbell. We had Isaiah McDuffie step in, and he came up with some big plays for Green Bay. I don't think he's a dynamic linebacker that they really need somebody to grab there in that linebacker spot, but I think he's a good second. I think he's a good second string linebacker there for Green Bay. So definitely some good things going on the defense there. Looking at our next one, the unsung hero, the guy who he's not your MVP, but he was kind of one of the mainstays in there. So Rogan, I know you got confused there before. I'm going to jump to you right away. Rogan, who do you got for your unsung hero of this Green Bay Packers team?
I'm actually going to go with Carlson. I'm kidding. Definitely not. I was just seeing what kind of reaction. Who do I got? I think I got to go with a guy like Bo Melton. He had a really good year this year, especially with Dobbs missed some games here and there. You had a guy like Watson who missed pretty much all season long, and you had guys like Melton and Musgrave and Tucker Kraft that all played pretty big roles in the pass game that I'm not sure they were quite expecting. But I thought Melton, especially down the stretch, he had some huge catches in some huge games. Even that 49ers game, that touchdown catch he had on that busted play, even though he was wide open, it was a tough catch. And he had a really good end to the season, and I was really happy for him to step up in the way he did.
Okay. Austin, who do we got? Unsung hero of the year.
I think it's got to go Jaden Reed. Not only was he able to help us in the punt return game, which I thought we lacked in a lot last year, but also, he was our leading wide receiver here with 64 receptions, 793 yards, and 8 touchdowns. Only a rookie, too. So he came in, Christian Watson, we thought he was going to have a huge year, or at least better than last year, and he's injured. Jaden Reed has to step up. He was out a couple games here, but I mean, besides that, I thought Jaden Reed definitely came in and produced very well compared to some other past wide receiver rookies that we've had come in here and not do so much. I thought he was definitely an unsung hero for our Packers offense.
I'm going to stick with the offense, but I'm going to the offensive line. I love the play of Elton Jenkins and Zach Tom. Those two are my unsung. I'm going to go heroes. I mean, you could go with the entire Rasheed Walker on that offensive line, or even looking at a guy like Josh Myers. But Elton Jenkins at one point this season had played 903 snaps and allowed 0 sacks. That is impressive for a young guy on that defense or that offensive line for Green Bay to hold his own like he was in a lot of matchups where he was one-on-one. And Elton Jenkins played phenomenal for this Green Bay Packer team. You could really look at anybody on that offensive line and say they were an unsung hero, because the way that this team turned it around, especially in the run game, had a lot to do with that offensive line. And I got to say, Elton Jenkins had to be my unsung hero of the year, if not Zach Tom.
You know, Trage, I'm kicking myself that I didn't pick the offensive line. You know, because I was usually the one always talking about them, and they kind of just like everyone, the offensive line just flies right over your head. Don't even think about them twice. So, you know what? I appreciate that you talked about the offensive line. You know, it's good to get the name out.
No
I
one
had
cares.
to. When he didn't say a word about him, I had to say something about the offensive line there. So in our next one, we got most improved. You know, this could be a rookie, whoever it was, your most improved player of the season. Austin, who do you got most improved Packer player on this season?
I want to go with Zach Tom. You know, I was going to go with Jordan Love, but now that you brought him up, you look at this guy, you look at our right tackle spot, you look at any tackle spot. We thought it was going to be David Bakhtiari's back and all that, but no, David Bakhtiari, the only thing he does is get injured and then ride around his golf cart. So I thought Zach Tom, you look at, just look at the Cowboys game alone. Goes against probably the best pass rusher in the league right now, one of them, Micah Parsons, 9 times, which isn't a lot, but for him, he didn't get beat a single time there. I thought he was hands down our best, one of the best tackles in the league, or in his position. And I thought he played. You saw he barely played last year. I thought Nyman played a lot more than Zach Tom last year. Comes in this year, and he ended up winning the starting spot. He got injured that last game there, which kind of sucked. But hopefully he'll be back next year better than ever. And I think we're going to be able to get rid of – we'll probably talk about this later, but hopefully we'll be able to get rid of David Bakhtiari because we realize how good our offensive line is without him.
Okay. Rogan, what do we got? Most improved player on the Packers team.
You know, Trage, I think I want to say Quay, but I got to go with Jordan Love just because of how important the position is. I mean, you look at early in the season, it was like, what was it, week 6, 7? I think we'd be lying if we weren't telling one another we weren't kind of looking ahead at the draft, seeing where we could get a
Not
pick.
Me. Not me.
Okay, Austin.
Not Austin.
Not Austin. He
Not
loved
Austin.
it from the beginning.
He did. I can't even lie. He did.
I give him credit. He stuck by him, but everyone else in the world besides him was kind of looking at the draft, thinking about the next quarterback that the Packers were going to take. And then for him to go on the run he did and show the improvement that he did was amazing. And I think Quay improved quite a bit. So I'm going to kind of throw out a co-improved players of the year again, but it comes down to Love's playing quarterback, the most important position in all of football. So I think I got to go Jordan Love.
Yeah, I could see that one. Definitely improved on the season. What's a good quarterback without a good tight end, right? Tucker Kraft. The play of Tucker Kraft, the way he developed. Luke Musgrave from day one was the guy. But when Tucker Kraft had to step in, you look at his numbers, 355 yards on the season there on 31 receptions, but 232 yards after the catch. That was what impressed me the most with Tucker Kraft. It's just his ability when he catches the football to create something more. They had to talk to this guy about staying on his feet because he liked to leap over guys. That was what I thought was funny. But Tucker Kraft definitely, in his run blocking too, I thought he was a phenomenal blocker. But the way that he developed in the pass game, I loved what I saw out of Tucker Kraft this year. So I'm going to give it to Tucker Kraft there in the most improved. Let's go with Rookie of the Year. We got to get our Rookie of the Year. So jumping to Rogan right away. Rogan, who's your Rookie of the Year for the Green Bay Packers?
I think my Rookie of the Year has to be Jayden Reed. Like, this guy was simply amazing on the offensive side of the ball. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he ended up finishing as our leading wide receiver. Or did Dobbs pass him with a couple of those big games?
It was Jayden Reed.
Reed.
To lead this team as a rookie, and I mean, you watch this guy play, and you can kind of tell when guys are different, and this guy looks different. Like, there's something about him and his route running, and he's got good feet. His routes are really good. He's twitchy. That's so big as a wide receiver, twitchy at the top of routes there, because that's where it's won. And him at the top of routes is kind of scary. Like, this guy I could see turning into an absolute Pro Bowler, possibly All-Pro type wide receiver.
Okay. Austin, what do we got? Rookie of the Year.
I got to go same thing with Rogan, Jayden Reed. I mean, I picked him for unsung hero, I'm pretty sure it was. And I mean, I got to go similar reasons as Rogan. He was kind of, first off, leading receiver. And like I said before, this is kind of the first rookie wide receiver that I've seen come in and have such, probably since Randall Cobb, that's come in and had such an immediate impact on our offense. So definitely Jayden Reed's got to be the Rookie of the Year.
I really wanted to say Jayden Reed, but everybody else did, so I'm going to go somewhere else with this one. If I'm not going to the defense there with Valentine, I'm going to stick with Dontavian Wicks. Wicks is a dog. That guy, I mean, if there was a guy who, if I was in a 3rd and 5 and I needed a catch, I'm going to Wicks. Wicks has got some hands on him, and you can put that ball wherever you got to put it. He's 6'5", he's long, he can get up there and get a ball for you. I like what they got in Wicks. I think he can be a dominant wide receiver. I don't think he's got the blow the top off the defense speed like Christian Watson or Reed. Those two guys are definitely in a different category there. But if I needed a guy up the middle, over the middle, Dontavian Wicks is my guy. That's who I'm going to. If I'm in the red zone, Wicks is a very good option in the red zone. If he had a little bit more speed to him, he'd probably be the number 1 receiver on the Green Bay Packers if he had a little bit more speed in his back pocket. He's got all the other tools that you want. Him and Dobbs, I mean, those two are similar in their play styles, but they're reliable. And I think that's what the Packers really need. You need your blow the top off the defense guys like Reed and Watson, but Wicks and Dobbs, they do the dirty work. And Wicks in the run game too, with those jet sweeps that the Packers love to run there at the end of the year with Reed, Wicks out in open space blocking, I thought impressed a lot of people, seeing what he can do out there in the run game blocking. So Wicks, I mean, you want to say Reed, Reed's probably hands down the Rookie of the Year. You can't really say anything against the guy, but I got to go somewhere else. So I'm going Wicks for my Rookie of the Year. Definitely, I mean, you could go a lot of places with that Rookie of the Year and say that they deserved it for this Packers team. Definitely a lot of guys deserving on this team outside of the kicker. I'm going to stick it outside of the kicker. I can't give him the Rookie of the Year. I gotta abstain from giving him Rookie of the Year. But with that, anything else to add for the Packers for the day? We got a lot to get into here as the week goes on.
No, I thought
nothing across the board.
We did pretty good. Trade.
We did pretty good there. That's about all we got for today. We ran through it all. Badgers in action tonight. Don't miss that one. Battle at the Barn. Should be a big one there for the Badgers. Badger women taking on Minnesota at home. We got a lot more to talk about with the Packers coming up this week. NFC Championships coming up this weekend. Got to be talking about them. So with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trade. Thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you guys back here tomorrow. But until then, deuces.